Indiana Jones. Oh God, what have I done? I am so ready to talk about Indiana Jones because I watched them when I was a child. They just scared me so bad. There's a fifth one coming out. I've been excited about that for a while. And then I thought to myself, you know what? It's been so many years since you've watched Indiana Jones. You should rewatch all of them. And this is what's going on. I'm going to see the fifth one tonight. This is release day shit, man. Oh, why do I keep saying man? Who are these men that I'm talking to? I managed to convince Lucinda to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark with me, and I'm thinking we are gonna be having a great time with this. Didn't go so well. Raiders of the Lost Ark made the bold choice of making Indiana Jones a pedophile. Both of us watching that were like, wait, what? I was like Googling stuff afterwards to try to figure out what that was all about. Marion is basically like saying to Indiana Jones, I was a child. And he says back, you knew what you were doing. And the scary thing about this is you look this stuff up for a second and you see conversations that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg had where George Lucas's idea was for them to have an affair when Marion was 11, and Spielberg is like, yeah, and she comes on to him. There's like victim blaming in that, where it's like, it's this 11-year-old girl who's just this little sexual deviant trying to come on to this innocent 25-year-old man. Apparently in like the original script, she was 15 and he was 25, 27, something like that. But Lucas was also quoted as saying like, if you make it 16 or something like that, it's not interesting anymore. Then it's not interesting. I talked to my sister on the phone about this, and she had one of the best takes that I think I've ever heard about it, which was basically saying them trying to write a morally gray character, and the best they could come up with was he's the hero of the movie, but he's a pedophile. Like, is that how men write morally gray characters? He's the good guy of the story, but he rapes kids. That's just one flaw. That makes him morally gray. And it's just like, oh my goodness. Anyways, in 2008, when Indiana Jones 4 came out, I think that they changed Marion's age. They aged her up a little bit so that she was supposed to be 17 while Indiana was 25. I also read an interview with the actress who played Marion, and her take on it was also kind of like, because the dialogue is vague, you could interpret it as not like a full-on affair. Maybe it was just a kiss or something. And like, she's so innocent that she's viewing this kiss as like this big thing, and Indy's more like, what the hell, I just kissed a 15-year-old girl, that's crazy. Or a 17-year-old girl, that's also crazy. Dude, what are you doing? That's so weird. So yeah, I think that if we're talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark, that dialogue there has aged very poorly. And the dialogue that Lucas and Spielberg had about that part of the story has aged even more poorly, because holy smokes, y'all were on your pedophile grind, and that's crazy. Oh my gosh. 11 years old? Really, Lucas? That puts the entire Star Wars legacy into question for me. I'm like, ugh. Outside of that, you have a lot of Nazi bashing, which I love to see. You know I love to see Nazis get slaughtered in funny ways. That's so entertaining for me. There's that scene where like the car runs over the Nazi and his arms and legs kick up. I'm laughing at that scene. Lucinda was over there like, how could you laugh at human beings dying? And I'm like, they're Nazis. They signed up for this. They signed up for me to laugh at them. And I know that's kind of, you know, it's fucked up. It's just like, ah, man, damn. If you didn't want me to laugh at you dying, you should not have been a Nazi. I can't help but laugh when the oppressors get shit on. That's me. That's what I do. You can't take the role of the oppressor and then get pissed off when I don't give a shit if you live or die, bro. Anyways, I love seeing Nazis die. Now we're gonna jump into... I watched that movie and I was like, this is so fucking fun. This is so fun. I get it. It's insanely dark. It's like a horror film. And then there's just a freaking roller coaster ride in the middle of it on freaking mine carts. And that's insanely fun. But Temple of Doom messed it up so bad there at the end, because they had an opportunity to make a very clear statement about British imperialism, about British colonialism, about British capitalism in India. And instead, they make these British imperialist pigs the good guys who save Indiana Jones from these backwards Indian people. And I just did not vibe with that. They had such a great opportunity because like they had child slaves, and I feel like with the freaking British there, that's the perfect opportunity to make them the big overarching bad who's kind of running the show behind the scenes. And that could be a nice big reveal at the end. And they didn't go with that. Instead, they just made the British Empire the good guys, and that makes no freaking sense to me. And that's where it really does just become like they're using India and the Indian people as just like the foreign, bad, scary shit. And that's bullshit. I didn't like that at all. They include the British Empire and then just make them the heroes. That's so dumb. You know how many like millions upon millions of people British colonialism and imperialism and capitalism killed in India? It's insane. Kind of ruined it, because like I would have said Temple of Doom was the best one right away. Damn. Anyways, and I really do believe of the four, Last Crusade is the best. There's no pedophilia. They don't make the British Empire the good guys. More Nazi bashing. There is one weird scene where like Indiana forces a kiss onto a girl and you're like, ooh, God, that wasn't consensual at all. But then she forces a kiss back onto him. Then he says some line of like, I don't like loose women. And you're like, oh my God, dude, what is your problem? And then she says something back to him that's so fucked up too, or I can't even remember the line, and I'm not going to bother looking it up. Bad vibes. But I think that the father-son dynamic was great. Now we're going to talk about... And I know what everybody expects here, right? That's the worst movie. I do agree that it's the worst movie in the franchise, but not for those reasons at all. This is my issue with this movie. They make the communists the bad guy, and like maybe I get it, they're just like trying to parody like the movies that were coming out during the Cold War era. Maybe that's what that was about, but it's just so cringe. It's so over the top. It's like they're trying to equate the communists with the Nazis. They're trying to say the communists are like just as bad and just as evil, and we can just laugh at them dying in the same way, and it doesn't work because the communists literally defeated the Nazis. That was freaking Stalin and his Soviets that did that shit, man. They fought with us to kill the Nazis. Then you're gonna act like they're just as bad as the Nazis just because the US couldn't handle that like communism was actually doing pretty well, and we had to be like, no, we're gonna threaten to blow up the whole entire world. That doesn't make any freaking sense, bro. Freaking capitalists ruin everything, man. Because look, the US had missiles lined up all along the outside of Russia just because we're like cool and badass and intimidating and spend way too much on our military. And Russia was like, hey Cuba, do you want to house some of our missiles and point them at the US? Basically returning what they're doing to us, like the golden rule. We get the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I mean, of course Cuba was going to put the missiles there after everything the US has done to freaking Cuba. Look, Fidel Castro led a people's revolution to overthrow a US-backed military dictator who was causing all sorts of trouble, and Fidel Castro overthrows that with the people, supported by the people, and they instantly start making things better for the people. Look at how the literacy rate shot up. Look at how many doctors are coming from Cuba. You're gonna act like Cuba's this evil, insane, violent, awful thing. And then like, look, we tried to assassinate Fidel Castro over 600 times. We commit terrorist attacks in Cuba. The Bay of Pigs. Of course, Cuba was gonna say, yes, we will take your missiles. Let's protect ourselves. Let's defend ourselves, right? And anyways, then the US couldn't handle being treated the way that they were treating other people. And so they decided to fuck everything up. They got all paranoid. Everybody starts walking around like spewing anti-communist rhetoric, which we're still dealing with to this day, and this movie plays a part in all that shit, and that's why I can't stand it. If you watch Indiana Jones 3 and you get to the book burning scene in Germany, they clearly show that one of the books that the Germans are burning is Das Kapital by Karl Marx. So the implication there is that these evil, evil people are burning Karl Marx's book on communism. Therefore, that book must be good if the bad guys are burning it. But then it seems like in the fourth movie, they turn around and they're saying, actually, no, the Nazis were 100% right to burn that book. Good on those Nazis. Well played. That doesn't make any fucking sense. And they kind of like completely sabotage Indiana Jones's character, who didn't have much going for him considering he started the series as a pedophile. But Indiana Jones shows up, finds out they're Russians, and just spends the entire opening of the movie spewing anti-communist propaganda. And at one point, I shit you not, they are about to kill him, and they say, "Any last words, Dr. Jones?" And he says, "I like Ike." And I'm like, what does that mean? I Google it, and it's a presidential slogan for Dwight D. Eisenhower. And can you imagine an action movie today where somebody's about to kill the hero and they're like, "Any last words?" And he's like, "Yes, we can." Or even worse, "Make America great again." I just like, that's your last words? Your last words is gonna be simping for a president? We have no presidents throughout all of US history that are worthy of our simping for. That makes no sense. Oh my goodness. The US is so weird because we have all of these like old presidents on all of our bills, and Benjamin Franklin, and they're all fucking slave owners, or Thomas Jefferson, the pedophile rapist slave owner, or Benjamin Franklin, not a president, still a slave owner. That's crazy to me. Why do we idolize them like that? We literally defaced a mountain to put slave owners and fuckers up on there. Unlike Native American land, that does not make any fucking sense to me. Where is this hero worship coming from? George Washington? Fucking scumbag asshole piece of shit. The man was like taking teeth from slaves to make his dentures. The man treated other human beings like cattle. Why are we going so crazy for presidents? In this day and age, they're all rich as hell these days. You know what I mean? The only way you get into politics is by being insanely rich. And then who's representing us, the people who don't have any money? Look at how many of our politicians are millionaires. That's so weird. Who are they representing? Other billionaires. Come on, folks, get with the program. I'm fine, you know? It's just Indiana Jones films. That's the thing about Indiana Jones 4 is like, it's just kind of like laughably bad when it comes to the portrayal of the communists. Like, it's so dumb. And this is so funny because Mac, he starts working for the communists, the Russians, and Indiana Jones is like, "How could you do this, Mac?" And Mac is like, "What can I say? I'm a capitalist. And they pay." And I think that is such a funny criticism of capitalism, because capitalism is like, I will sell out literally everything I believe in, including capitalism, in order to make money. I am that much of a fucking sellout. No amount of friendship, nothing is gonna change the fact that I will sell you, Dr. Jones, out for money because I'm a capitalist. That's so funny to me. I laughed out loud when he said that. I was like, what a perfect critique of capitalism in this movie where you're trying to make the communists the Nazis. Literally, you get to the end of the movie and the communist girlie in the gray suit, what does she ask for when she's standing before the aliens? Freaking knowledge. She just wants to know shit, and they like blow up her eyes and burn her brain, and she turns into a mist and gets sucked into another dimension just because she wanted to know stuff. Indiana Jones 4 is anti-education. Even Mac at the end, Indy's trying to save him, and Mac makes the choice to be like, I'm going to another dimension. Fuck it, I want to see what's out there. Indy and them are all like, we gotta get out of here. We don't want to go to another dimension. We don't want to know what's beyond this earth. We just want to stay here with our heads in the sand. The communists, on the other hand, they were going. They were flying off into the air, into that other dimension. And I respect that. I don't even think that the girl in the gray suit is dead. I think that she just got turned into like a mist of knowledge. And hey, good for her. I respect that. Well played, Queen. There's another criticism in there where, like, right at the end when they get to where all of the skeletons are, she's talking about how these aliens are a hive mind. And it felt like that classic criticism of communism that you get where it's like, everybody's just a hive mind, it's groupthink, nobody's able to think for themselves or think critically because they all have to think along the party lines or something. That is such a dumb criticism of communism. Oh my gosh, get real, folks, please. I've read 2 books recently where they both tried to criticize communism as making it like a hive mind groupthink thing. One of them was 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. That book was so dumb for a lot of reasons. That book really did a lot to justify pedophilia, and so I had a lot of problems with it and was really grossed out by it. But they portray this like communist society, and one of the lines that they says was like, yeah, you know, they do all this stuff this way, and it's the price that they pay for nobody starving to death. And I was like, do you hear yourself? Because like nobody starving to death would be incredible. This other book that I read was called The Once and Future King. Like King Arthur gets turned into an ant by Merlin, and he works with the ants, and they have a hive mind. And it's bad because it's communism and everything like works really really well because they're all working together, but they're all just like doing the stuff that they do seemingly like under mind control because it's a hive mind. Anyways, super dumb. And what's so funny about that book is that I stopped reading that book because the author starts advocating for feudalism, literally saying it was better when people were slaves and served their master. He even had some line like, masters are these good people, and look at how they treat their cattle. They treat them well because they get their milk from them and the cattle work for them. And in the same way, they would treat their people well that they would own. I threw that book in the garbage, in the straight garbage. I was like, I'm out. I'm good. Thanks, bro. Here's the thing, the surviving in the fridge, dope as hell. I don't care what anybody says. In the second one, they literally survive falling out of a plane in an inflatable raft. I like it. I like the bomb going off with him standing in the foreground. That's a great shot. Second thing people criticize a lot, the swinging on the vines. I watched it and I had like media literacy finally, right? Every other time I've watched it, I have not had that media literacy. And I'm watching it and I'm realizing, oh, they're referencing that he's the son of Indiana Jones because Indiana Jones always swings with his whip. So they're doing like a like father, like son thing where they're having him swing. And because Indy always swung with the whip, he's swinging on the vines. And once I realized that, I was like, oh shit, that makes total sense. I get it. It's like maybe a little bit over the top with all the monkeys swinging around him, but it works so well. And it happened inside one of the most fun action sequences in all of the films. That whole sequence when they're driving through the jungle in those duck cars and that like blade saw thing and the ants, everything there, the waterfalls, all of that is so fun. It is like the funnest you can get. It's just like Temple of Doom with the freaking roller coaster ride halfway through. It's just ridiculous and stupid and so freaking fun. Even the aliens themselves. It's like, yeah, I could buy that too. Why not? What's so crazy about that? I think it works really well. I don't mind the aliens at all. So like, honestly, if they had had a different bad guy than the communists, Indiana Jones 4 could have been my top favorite one as well. They did some really solid stuff with Mutt and Indy. And like that whole father-son dynamic, the scene at the school where they're riding the motorcycle, great stuff. Marion's reintroduction, also great. Right, so let me just share my fresh out the theater thoughts. Indiana Jones 5, insane. Crazy. My light just went out. All right, I'm not going to give any spoilers. I do have to say, Archimedes, dope as hell. I like that the film acknowledges that the U.S. enlisted Nazis for our science programs. Good call out. There are parts of this movie that are devastating to me. I feel like there's going to be a ton of people criticizing the CGI de-aging effect at the start of the film, and it's like, fair enough. But here's the deal. I can't be too bothered by shit like that, okay? Because a lot of people criticized the CGI in the fourth movie, and it didn't bother me. Like, people were complaining about the CG monkeys and the CG aliens and a lot of that stuff. And I was just like, CG is always going to be just like a product of its time. Whenever the movie is made, if it has CG in it, it's going to be dated to that time. You know what I mean? Because this de-aging shit is going to get crazier and crazier. So, you know, maybe at the start of the movie, he looks a little bit like a video game character, and that's fine with me. Because it's like, look, I love that first Jumanji movie, but those fucking monkeys looked like freaks. The movie still works, you know what I mean? I, halfway through, had this prediction of what was going to happen, and it didn't happen, and I was upset by that because I had a really fun prediction. But I also understood that maybe my prediction was a bit too, like, on the nose. Phoebe's character, Helena, iconic. Super freaking iconic character. That's all I really gotta say. I gotta get home because tomorrow I am leaving on what will be a trip to China. I hope that I vlog it like I did my trip to the Grand Canyon, because that was a great video. Oh my gosh. I'm just still thinking about how crazy that movie was. That was a ride. Hey, I gotta film one more thing because I didn't give a ranking. So this is 2 days later. I am wearing the same shirt, but I swear to you that I have just like washed it and worn it again, and I didn't just... Here's the deal. Third one, best, top spot. Below that, I've had time to sit with it. I've had time to think about it. As of this moment, I am putting Indiana Jones 5 in the second spot for me. Then, after 5, I'm putting 2, Temple of Doom. Then Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, down at the very bottom, where it belongs. for villainizing the communists. That's it. That's the ranking. Oh my gosh, I also have to say one funny thing about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull that I didn't mention last time is there's that scene when they're on the campus and the kids are carrying this sign around that says better dead than red. Fucking die then. Like, that's the dumbest slogan I've ever heard. What are you talking about? But I think that really captures just like the paranoia, like the white people were being really dumb. Off I go. Today's the day. Taking a big, long airplane flight. Wish me luck. I'm scared of planes. I'm scared of dying. Planes are my snakes, basically.